Graph the function y equals x squared minus 4x plus 2. Label the vertex and the axis of symmetry. Recall that this equation y equals x squared minus 4x plus 2 is in standard form, which is y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. So before we start graphing or doing any of the procedures, we need to identify a, b, and c. So a is the coefficient in front of the x squared terms. If I go to my original equation, there's no number written in front of the x squared, so that value is assumed to be a 1. So a equals 1. The b is in front of the x term. So I find my x term, and the number in front is a negative 4. So b is negative 4. And then c is the number that has no variable. It's just the constant term, so c is equal to 2. So once we've identified a, b, and c, we can go and find the axis of symmetry. And just recall that the axis of symmetry is the line that divides the parabola into equal halves, or it's the line of reflection if you want to think of it in that term. And there is an equation to find the axis of symmetry. It is x equals negative b divided by 2a. So since we know what a and b are, we're going to go ahead and just substitute them in here. So I have negative, and then b is negative 4. And remember that the first negative is a part of this equation, so you've got to have it. The second negative is attached to the b value, divided by 2 times a. So this gives me negative 1 times negative 4 is 4, divided by 2 times 1, which is 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So the line x equals 2 is my axis of symmetry. And this is a vertical line. Anytime it's x equals a number, it's a vertical line. So I go to the x-axis, find the 2, and here's my vertical line. So that's the axis of symmetry, x equals 2. And we'll use a.0.s for axis of symmetry. Once you have the axis of symmetry, the next thing you need to do is find the vertex. Find the vertex. Now the vertex is a point, and the point lies on the axis of symmetry. So it's somewhere on this line. So we know its x value has to be the same as the axis of symmetry. So its x coordinate is 2. So the vertex is a point. Its x coordinate is always the same as the axis of symmetry, negative b divided by 2a. But we've already calculated negative b divided by 2a, so we know the x coordinate is 2. So I've got to figure out what is my y coordinate. To get that value, you go to the original equation, and everywhere you see the x, we're going to substitute in the value of 2. So I've got 2 squared minus 4, and here's another x, we're going to plug in the 2, plus 2. And we'll just calculate the value. So 2 squared is 4. Negative 4 times 2 is negative 8 plus 2. 4 minus 8 is negative 4. Negative 4 plus 2 is a negative 2. So when x is 2, the y value is negative 2. So that's our vertex. We're going to plot that point. So 2, negative 2. We should also know which direction the parabola is going to open. If I look at the equation, find the a value, which is 1. It's a positive 1. So if a is positive, the parabola opens up. So I know it's going to go up in this direction. So that's going to help us as we find our next points. Now, what I always do is I go to my vertex, which is x equals 2, and I'm going to pick the next 2 x values. So this would be x equals 3 and x equals 4, and I'm going to use them in a table. So here's my table. And I'm going to plug in x is 3 and x is 4. And what I want to do is I want to get the y coordinate. So this is just like what we did with our vertex. Plug in the x into the equation and calculate the y. So when x is 3, that gives me 3 squared minus 4 times 3 plus 2, which would be 9 minus 12 plus 2. Negative 3 plus 2, which is negative 1. So when x is 3, y will be negative 1. And I've got the point 3, negative 1 right here. I'm going to plot it on my graph. And I want to do the same thing with the 4. So everywhere I see the x in the original equation, we're going to substitute 4. So that's y is equal to, gives me 4 squared minus 4 times 4 plus 2. 4 squared is 16. Negative 4 times 4 is negative 16 plus 2. So this is 0, and that leaves me with 2. So when x is 4, y is 2. So I'm going to go over to 4, and y is at 2. Plot those 2 points. Now here's my vertex. Here's 2 points to the right. If I connect these dots, I've got the right side of my parabola. The next thing I want to do is get the left side. Now I could pick 1 and 0 and plug into the equation and calculate the y coordinates and plot the points. But I know that the axis of symmetry cuts it in half, and it's a line of reflection, or it makes a mirror image of the right side and the left side. So I can take these 2 points that I have and reflect them across the axis of symmetry, and that'll give me my left side of the graph. So this point right here is 1 unit to the right of the axis of symmetry. So I'm going to go 1 unit to the left, and there's my point on the left side. This point is 2 units to the right of the axis of symmetry. So we'll reflect it across and go 2 units left, and we've got our parabola. And that's the graph of y equals x squared minus 4x plus 2.